If you're someone who feels stuck between a rock and a hard place, or you get those sharks in your stomach every time you're confronted with a decision or with a challenge, or you're someone who has just befronted a fork in the road and do not know which way to go, you are at the right place. Then this podcast is for you. Because in this podcast, we are going to talk about life's struggles, the various curveballs that life throws at us, personal struggles, loss, grief, transition, and everything under the sun that will help you deal with problems, whether in your career, whether in your business, or in personal life. I'm Sonam Sharma, a part of this very illuminating talk show, so to speak, that falls under the name of the Entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is a playbook for leaders and entrepreneurs of yesterday, of today, and of tomorrow. We have stories of resilience. We have stories of grit, of determination. And today we have one such guest who has not just survived a storm, but he's actually built a compass through it. We have someone called Rupesh Bhargav. He's a leader, he's a mentor, he's a name to reckon with in the pharma and the business world. And more than that, he's now an author. Beyond the Comfort Zone, a book that merges and blends his life story, his personal struggles, with a strategy. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
Very glad to have you here.
Thank you.
I think before anything else, let's just jump from the very beginning of your life. Let's just dive in to the various facets that turned you into who you are today. Let's talk about your childhood, sir.
My childhood, I would say, was a very interesting one. My father being in the armed forces, he kept on moving from places to places. I distinctly remember as a 2.5, 3 years old child being sent to a school in Lucknow, and the school was Bal Bharti.
Right.
And I don't know, but I just distinctly remember that my mom used to pay some 10 paisa to that rickshaw puller who used to take us to the school so that he can buy me some groundnuts so that I can eat and do not sleep in the rickshaw so that I don't fall down. So it was so early for us to go to that school. I really do not know what I learned.
How old were you, sir?
I was 2.5 years old.
Wow. And you still have the memory?
I have the memories of that 2.5 years old.
Yeah.
And then I distinctly remember one fine morning, my father said that we are going to some other place. And I said, what's that other place? Because I don't understand. I said, what will happen to my friends here? He said, no, you will make some new friends. So actually, I went to a place called Banbasa. Now this Banbasa is actually an Indo-Nepal border near, actually Pilibhit, Uttarakhand. And this was one such place which was actually known for more of wild elephants.
Okay.
Rampaging elephants.
Did you befriend any during?
No, so that was a story which was told to me by my dad, so that we go to that place very happily, and we were there. And then it came to a surprise that we were not staying in Banbasa. We were placed in a place called Tanakpur.
I've heard of Tanakpur, yeah.
Yeah, so Tanakpur had only one school, and that school was Saraswati Shishu Mandir. So from English medium school, I finally landed up here in a Sanskrit medium school.
So not even Hindi?
Not even Hindi, because this was run by Acharya Jis. And everything, the medium of education actually was more of a Sanskrit.
Right.
Of course, it was a blend of Hindi and Sanskrit, but Sanskrit was definitely a dominating language.
So almost like a Gurukul.
Possibly, yes. I can say that during those days. But it was a good exposure because they would... Now I remember the kind of exercises that we used to do. There was no formal name, but now today I can correlate that it was yoga. So we were very small kids and we were asked to go through that fireball.
Oh, wow.
And it was scary, but then when everybody was doing, I also did. And it was so much of a fun. So I think that initial adventure in the life also had lasted impact throughout my career. And then after being there for a couple of years, By the time I was in fourth or fifth, fourth or fifth, 1974, 1974, 75. And that was a time when, again, one day I saw some four Fauji's coming in here to pack the luggage. So, and the news was that we are moving to Gangtok.
Again, the move happened.
Again, to move to Gangtok.
And by this time, how old were you?
I was 8 years old.
Okay. So this is just happening in the really
Yes.
Under 10 years.
Yes.
Of your life.
And then by the time I reached Gangtok, it was a princely state during that time. It was not a part of India. It was considered to be a princely state. We was ruled by the king, like the way it's there in Bhutan right now. And we were there. And I was shifted to, because it was in the middle of the session, so I was put in a school called West Point English Medium School. The school had West Point English Medium School, but it was a purely Nepali medium school.
Don't tell me you can speak
So
Nepali.
yes, I can. So from a Sanskrit medium, I moved to Nepali medium. And this is happening at a stage when people talk about forming a base. And actually, I had no base.
It's very, it's shape-shifting for you.
Absolutely. So neither I was good at Hindi, nor I was good at Sanskrit, nor I was good at Nepali.
So, sir, moving through so many cities, cultures, languages, I'm sure these transitions brought about a certain, change in your personality, perhaps adaptability towards your leadership style. And a lot of the times, from what I understand, things that kind of happen around us. Obviously, there are things that happen within us. The chaos is always within us too. But then there's so much around us that kind of shapes us to become this person that we are evolving into, right? I wanted to understand, how has it affected your leadership style, or perhaps it has changed something about you as a person and you don't subscribe to that school of thought anymore? Is there any profound change that has happened with you, in you?
I think it's a very, very good question, Sonam, because when you move to different locations, when you move and meet different people, and in my early days, to be very honest with you, I was always at a receiving end. Yeah. And the reason was very simple, because suppose when I moved to Gangtok, there was hardly any Indian in that school. The entire crowd was of either were actually Nepalis, or they were Mongolians, or they were from other countries, maybe from Bhutan. There were a lot of friends from Bhutan. But that adaptability was always from my side.
Yes, absolutely.
I was always at the receiving end, because I need to go and make friends with them, because they were already settled.
Yes.
And they never wanted, and they would look at it from a very jaundiced eye, because India was, for them, at that point in time, was a hostile country, because they were in the process of acquiring
Land.
Acquiring the entire Sikkim state into India.
Right.
So the kind of understanding those kids would have had it, I think that made them feel that maybe I am one of them. And when they came to know that my father is from the defense, then obviously that also gave us a lot of trigger.
Yeah.
So although the word ragging did not have it in the school, but I think I was bullied a lot.
I understand.
And when I was bullied a lot, in fact, I took a very aggressive approach. And I said, no, I'm not going to take it lying down, because in one of such conversations during one of the field trips, because during that time my father was actually based out of Nathula bypass. So he used to come once in a month to meet us and all that kind of stuff. And then when he came in here, I said, Dad, I'm sick of this place, because nobody's accepting me. And then he told me very simple. He said, you need to carve out your own niche.
Absolutely.
Of being adaptable to the crowd. But don't take things lying down. If somebody gives you a slap, please give him two.
That's a very important lesson.
But don't come crying to us, because I'm not the father who's going to support you on that. So I think my leadership initially, when I started, had a blend of both being aggressive, But I was also very, very people centric. And today, I think if anybody has to, those who have worked with me, and if you ask them, I think most of them will say that Rupesh has a very, very people centric approach. And I can correlate empathy with my leadership because I did not get that empathy from
People
from
around you,
people
yeah.
around
Yeah.
me. So obviously, I think that got inbuilt.
Yeah. Also, I think for you, I feel the power of discernment is very pronounced, because you've met, seen, been with so many people from so many different parts of the world. And I think that's what I feel is where you started breaking the comfort zone. Like you said, those guys were in their comfort zone, but you weren't. You were always moving ahead and you were pushing boundaries, pushing and reinventing yourself. That brings me to another question, sir, and I know we talked about it yesterday as part of a research, and it was very interesting because I think that kind of also helped me understand where you come from and how it's kind of rerouted you back into the structure, the whole corporate structure, which is the fact that your father was, from the armed forces. And to an extent, you wanted to be a part of the armed forces, right? And then life did something and you were rooted back to the corporate business world.
I think that's a very interesting point in my career.
Yeah.
I never wanted to be in the corporate. I never even thought about it. Having been born and brought up in the cantonments all across, I had only dreamt of being in the army. But as the luck would have had it, and maybe I think it's more to do with the destiny.
Right.
Two of my cousins who were commissioned, they were actually commissioned and they were sent because their regiment had some operations going on with, Sri Lanka during that IPKF. And two of my young cousins at the age of 21, 22, both of them actually came martyred to India. And I think that
Was this the landmine in?
the landmine blast that they had. And I think that also put a complete stop in the family of people even thinking about going to the armed forces. If I would have gone, it would have been the third generation. My grandfather was in the army, my father was in the army, and I could have also been in the army. But I think the destiny had its own way of looking at it, and I landed myself into the corporate world.
So, you mentioned that your father wasn't particularly happy with you joining the corporate world. Was it?
Because the kind of travel and the kind of the kind of transfers, because he always felt that he had not been able to give quality time to us.
Right.
He has been always on the move. We didn't have any comfortable life in terms of our friends. Okay, means I would say I have friends all across the globe now, but during that time, I think it was a difficult decision of actually moving because from Gangtok again, I had moved to Kalimpong. Again from Kalimpong, we came down to Gwalior for a year, and then from Gwalior again we had to move to Jabalpur. But during that time, of course, I was in a boarding school, so I could manage that because that was a time when I was doing my ICSE 10th,
Right.
and there was no way that I could have moved to any other city. But once I completed 10th, so ICSE, and then that was a time when my dad was posted in Jabalpur, and he actually got me to Jabalpur.
It's interesting. I'm born in Jabalpur.
So then you must be knowing Christchurch School.
I do.
So I did my higher secondary from Christchurch School, and then of course I did my graduation from the then Robertson College, which is now Common Sense College.
Yeah.
And then of course after doing my graduation, what next? So of course one was this: either you get into the corporate or you get into the army, and army was ruled out. So I said, why not?
So he wasn't all unhappy about. It was just some sort of a disapproval initially from your dad.
Actually, he was one guy who would not actually disapprove anything.
Right.
Whatever you do, but I think it was more from the mother's side.
Right. Right.
Because my mother was very, very adamant in terms of me not going into any kind of adventurous job, including for her it was more of an adventurous job. So I said, okay. But she later realized that corporate job was equally adventurous for me.
In a different way, obviously.
In a different way.
Yes, but yes,
Yeah.
I want to come to this very interesting fact that you were a director by the age of 40.
Yes.
And that is commendable. That is a huge achievement for anybody who's thriving in the corporate world, especially people who are our audiences would be extremely inspired to hear that. But you've also seen 5 high stakes mergers and acquisitions, right?
Right.
And I want to understand that entire transition period from when you were in your first, high stake firm to then, changes. And how did that transition shape you as a leader? Did it, that uncertainty? Because we hear a lot of that in the book. We hear about that in the book, right? And we see and read about it in the book. But how, as I'm talking to you firsthand, what, from the horse's mouth, how did it feel?
I mean, I think for me, taking risks in life
Right.
was never an issue. And because I always believed in my capabilities, that and thanks to that initial
Phase of your life.
phases of my life where actually I had struggled a lot, I think it gave me enough confidence that I can survive anything.
The mindset really shifted.
Mindset, I think, was very, very clear that if you do not leave your comfort zone, you will never be able to make it big.
Absolutely.
So I was, I think, as you rightly said, I survived 5 mergers and acquisitions. And one of the toughest was when there was a formation of this HMR to Avantis. It was one of the toughest mergers. And then from Avantis to Sanofi Avantis, because Sanofi acquisition was of a hostile acquisition.
Right.
And it was actually backed by the French government. Means it's there in the public domain, so I can actually speak it out like that, but that's a fact. So it was very evident that, but I think we survived and we did well. And then I think what really helped was that I never said no to any of my changes in life, in the professional career.
Yeah.
I started from a place called Deri-on-Son in South Bihar, next to Sasaram. And when I landed up there, there was no hotels, no electricity. There was only one hotel called Hotel Rimjim.
Hotel Rimjim?
Rimjim.
Very colourful.
Where you could get one room for 32 rupees in those days. I'm talking about 1986. And every night you couldn't sleep because it was all generator, because once the electricity is gone, you don't know it's going to come in 2 days, 3 days,
Oh, wow.
maybe a week. And that's how I started my career. And from Deri-on-Son, I moved to Gorakhpur, from Gorakhpur to Jhansi, from Jhansi to Cuttack, from Cuttack to Nagpur, from Nagpur to Delhi, from Delhi to Mumbai, Mumbai to Delhi, again to Mumbai, then to US, then came back, went to China, then came. So if I look at it, I practically did what my father did to me, that by the time my son completed his 10th, that was his 10th school. But he was lucky not to have the language barrier, because he was only shifting from ICSE to CBSE, CBSE to state
Within
boards.
India.
But yes, and I think he did pretty well for himself. So,
Yeah.
So I think the adaptability will define your leadership traits when you grow up.
Absolutely.
And that's what I have seen it in my case, that you need to be adaptable to change. Change is the only constant factor in life.
I agree.
If you embrace change, you will do wonders. That's my one message to all my youngsters, those who are joining the corporate world,
Yeah.
that they should embrace challenges. They should embrace the very change, because that would allow them to what they would be.
That brings me to a very interesting part of the book, and I feel that's more or less the theme of the book. And you said, and in fact, it says something like that, for you, resilience is not inherited, it is earned, right? So what would be your message to the younger audience in here, even to the ones who've really gone on to achieve something in their lives? But resilience is not something, sir, that everybody owns wholeheartedly, right? So how would you define resilience, and what are the tactics, perhaps what are the ways in which one can become more resilient in life?
So I think one of the factors that I would say is that resilience would come in if you have tuned mentally. That's very, very important. Because until unless you don't tune yourself mentally, you will never be even able to take or embrace that resilience part of it.
Right.
And I think it goes in a very structured way. You have to have a mental makeup of doing things in a different way. There are two types of people that I've come across in life. Those who just want to be like the way it's going and they're happy with it.
Yeah.
And there are some people like me who would always challenge the system to be where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I think for that, you will have to make even some kind of sacrifices at times.
Absolutely.
Because without sacrifices, you will not be able to do that.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, if I have to, so I don't have a straight recipe for it, but I think you need to be mentally aligned. That, okay, this is what I want to achieve over the next 3 years, 5 years, and if it takes whatever it takes, I would get there.
Absolutely.
So I think that kind of a mental makeup would help you in terms of taking a decision, which will also allow you to be resilient in your approach, because subconsciously you have said to yourself that this is what I want to do,
Yeah.
and if your mind can perceive, your body will achieve.
Achieve. I agree with that. Absolutely.
That's the way I would look at
I
it.
think that's a very important lesson. And I feel most of us, we kind of hold ourselves back and we stand in our own way. Like, I like to say that for myself, because even as someone who's dabbling with various interests and being a polymath, I feel I stand in my own way half of the time, And then when I realize that and consciously sort of unwire and change that about myself, I go back to lessons of all people like yourself, who have done something and who've completely pushed with it. They've pushed on and they've consistently stayed determined to their purpose in life. Bringing it back to the younger audiences again. Now, a lot of the youngsters are navigating through various struggles in life. They're getting into startup cultures, they're getting into entrepreneurship very early on in life. May not have a great idea, but have the wherewithal to do something because of whatever reasons. They could come from great backups, or they have great ideas who they feel can be supported, essentially. So my question to you, sir, is, to those people, what do you think is that one trait, is that one, personality trait? I can't even call it a behavioral thing. I want it to be something which is embedded in you as a human body. What is it that they can carry so that they don't face these struggles, they don't face the trials and tribulations of what, say, my parents faced when they were, going through their life challenges or whatever? Because times are very different. We have so many things at our disposal, right? We have so many resources available, but yet there is something that is lagging. There is that fault in the system that we're not able to quite pinpoint. So if you see that from your lens, sir, what is it and how can we troubleshoot that to achieve what we want to achieve?
I think first and the foremost thing that I would say is, pick up the habit of doing self-talk.
Very important.
Because if you don't do self-talk, because your mind requires continuous hammer of what you want to do. And if you have picked up that I want to do this, ask yourself, why do I want to do this? How I will do this? When will I do this? I think those kind of questions, if you ask yourself, you will get the answers.
It's a very wonderful way to actually...
Because, Sonam, what happens is normally, I go to a lot of campuses, I meet a lot of youngsters, and people want to do it.
Their way.
Why? Because my other friends are doing engineering, so I also want to do engineering. My other friends are doing biotech, so I also want to do biotech. But the fact is that this is not going to help. Your core competencies could be very, very different.
Absolutely.
And I would always advise that, first of all, be very clear what you want to do. And the best thing is, ask yourself questions. Why do I want to do this? Even if I want to do this, what will I achieve?
Is there like a workbook technique that you follow or advise people to follow Is there like a journaling thing?
So basically, if actually somebody comes to me and says, "So this is what I want to do," so I said, "Why do you want to do?
Why?
Why? Because there must be a reason, right? Suppose if you don't do this, what next?" And see, today the education system is such, and I'm not blaming anybody. If you ask an individual to speak about his top 5 strengths, people will not be able to give their own 5 top strengths.
I agree. Yeah.
Right? If you ask somebody what are your 5 top core competencies, I don't think so people will be able to tell you. So what happens is that if you do not know it, go and ask people to whom you trust. Right? I always would recommend one personal, which is I personally feel I did it, but I did it late.
Right.
You must have a mentor.
I was just about to come to that actually.
You must have a mentor, and you must take his mentorship.
Yeah.
Because at least somebody who is looking at you from a helicopter's view would be in a better position to tell you where are you lacking and why are you lacking and what you could do better. And I actually correlate because in early days, during our time, early days, we did not have this mentorship concept and all that. But I think one of these statements that I remember from my father's diary was, "You'll be successful because your success would depend on how many people you have met in life and how many books you have read."
How many books you've read? Oh wow.
So and today, people don't read.
Yeah.
People don't read.
Yeah.
And the second aspect that I see, and which is very, very disheartening, is that people don't invest on themselves. Like say, for example, you have a budget for everything. You have a budget for movie, you have a budget to go for a picnic, you have a budget for everything. Do you have a budget for your self-improvement process? Would you like to upgrade yourself with a course over a period of time?
Yes.
So if you have your goals well defined, the short-term goals or the long-term goals, what would be the requirement to manage those goals? And if there is an intervention required, can you fund it for yourself? Companies are not going to fund everything for you.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, you were one of the lucky ones, and you got.
I got a lot of. I was very lucky because I was very demanding too. I was very demanding, and it takes a while because every couple of years I was doing some or the other intervention.
Told me, yeah, and upskilling every.
So I was not good at finance, so I did my finance for non-finance from IIM Indore. I may not be good at administrative, so I was sent to Administrative Staff College of India in Hyderabad. When I grew up as a leader and when I was getting into the sales and marketing management role, Sanofi was quite clear that yes, we need to upgrade you. They actually sent me to INSEAD Paris.
Wow.
For a customized course on marketing. And then when I came back and when I was, as I said, when I became a director and at the age of 40, they thought that this guy also needs some intervention, leadership for top leaders.
Right.
So they actually sent me to ISB Hyderabad.
Do you have a mentor, sir?
I had a mentor. I still have a mentor, and one of my mentor is my ex-boss, Mr. Humayun Majru, who was my managing director, who was... so I had a couple of them, to be very honest.
Yeah.
So this guy, of course, was my managing director when we were handling the Sanofi Pasture business.
Right.
My initial days, I think, when I was a rep and I was working as a trainee kind of stuff, I had my mentor in Mr. Deepak Mukherjee. I learnt a lot out of him. Though I had a lot of fights with him during that time, but
I think that's important because.
But I had a lot of learnings out of him. And of course, then when I grew up, I had Mr. S.L. Vadva, who again was a very, very demanding boss. But I think I learnt a lot out of him. So I've actually had the habit of picking up good things from everyone. But these three names come in because they were my biggest critics also. And they are the ones who also supported me left, right, and center.
Absolutely. That's why they're your biggest critics,
Yes.
I feel.
So that's one of the reasons that I would always say that you must have a mentor and you must spend time with him. Not only when your times are bad. you should also invest time when you are really doing well.
Make it to the book, especially during the pandemic time. And I wanted to ask you this question: if vulnerability is got a place in leadership, does being vulnerable mean that you're not a good leader? Or do you completely negate that from leadership? Or do you think it's an important part of leadership and can shape leadership in a completely transformational way?
I think when it comes to vulnerability, it's one should have it, and I think it's a part of leadership. COVID times were difficult times. Just before the COVID started, there was a complete acquisition of Bharat vaccines by Advent International, and I was a part of that particular deal. And once the deal was summed up, I was the first employee to be asked to leave the organization.
You were
I was the first employee to be asked to leave the organization, and that's like, and that's very natural flow because of the fact that any company who is investing more than 3,500 crores would not like to have a person who was close to the promoters,
absolutely.
well, which is fair enough.
It becomes a lynchman otherwise.
Yeah. So what happened during that time? Uh, I had two choices: to pick up another job, but the job market was very tight because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But I think first 2 months I really enjoyed. I still remember banging that plate, or as
Yeah,
suggested by Mr. Modi. Had a great time actually during first 2 months. But I said after that, what next? And I think I went into pro bono consulting. I said I need to find a way out because this is one time where I need to really stand up and be counted. And you name any of these pro bono consulting companies, I was a part of them. And I think even God helped those who help themselves.
Absolutely.
So when I was going through this particular phase, I got a lot of projects on vaccines. And I had a great experience of vaccines thanks to, as I said in my earlier remark, Humayun Majru was one of my mentors. And it was under his leadership that I learned a lot of vaccine business. And I think that helped me. And made a good money out of that particular tenure. So it was not all that bad. But yes, what happens is when you work in corporates for 35 years, 40 years, and I think anybody who is working and who is not an entrepreneur, he actually is a slave of salary.
Absolutely. And of routine.
And when I say slave of salary, he gets that kick on the first when that ting button actually hits your account.
First of every month.
So, so that was one particular time I realized, hey, you became a slave of salary for last so many years.
Yeah.
Because as an entrepreneur, you don't know when your next money is going to come.
Absolutely.
When your next check
Insecurity is
gonna
like the
come.
fabric, yeah.
So I think that period allowed me to be very calm now. That's what I want to do, and I would do it at my own terms.
Yeah. That risk-taking ability.
Risk-taking ability for me was always huge. And I think my first tenure, where I started as a trainee in Hext, and I continued in that company for almost 27 years. I think I have done various roles, and I was one of the troubleshooters for them, be it a union issues, be it a new project. If they don't find anybody else, they know that Rupesh Bhargav is the person whom they can go. And I can say with a lot of pride that I delivered whatever was expected out of me from that, And actually that gave me a confidence to be what I am today.
Absolutely. There's another misconception around leadership, and pardon me if I cross the line in asking this question, but a lot of the times leaders are inherently sort of believed to be these really strong, aggressive people with no morals and no sort of, sometimes, I'm not saying most of them, but I also know of leaders who are very, very high on their emotional and spiritual quotient. How important do you think is spirituality in grounding a leader? Because I know of a lot of leaders who as much as they spend, on themselves, their teams, their businesses, they're also spending a lot of time on their spiritual and their personal development, like you mentioned, the personal improvement. So, how do you think? How are you a spiritual person? A, and secondly, has it impacted your career and your success trajectory over these entire sort of years?
Well, I am a spiritual person. Uh, I would not leave my house until unless I do my prayers in the morning.
Very important, yeah.
And this I've been following for the last almost 45 years, 50 years. By the time I was 10, I was made to recite Hanuman Chalisa in those days. And for me, if I don't recite my prayers in the morning, my day doesn't begin. So I'm very clear. Secondly, people would be lying when they say that leadership, that they do not have emotional quotient. No, leadership cannot be without an emotional quotient. Emotional quotient of some leaders could be very high, some leaders could be less, but they would have emotional quotient. Somebody would be able to hide their emotions, and I think most of them do it because you don't want to show it to your teams that you are vulnerable under stress. But yes, you would have seen a lot of young leaders dying at 42, 45, good marathoners and all that, and you would have read it in the newspapers, right? It's not that they, and I know a few of them, and they were like fantastic people,
Yeah.
but they could not ventilate out their problems or their frustrations, their depressions, and they became the victim of the circumstances. I am one guy. If I don't, if I'm not good, I will find some or the other way to communicate and ventilate my feelings.
Let us hear one or two of them. How are the ways you express yourselves? Is there a creative pursuit that you follow? Is there a practice that you do? Is there some sports that you, games?
Basically, yes. So for me, I think my pastime is music, and second, of course, is sports. Even today, if earlier on I was not getting opportunity, but now I'm getting a good time. I play my 4 games of badminton every morning. I walk down 7 to 8 kilometers a day, so that's my exercise for the day.
There's like 10,000 steps.
More than that, more than that. So my target is always 15,000 steps. But so that's one. I think the second part is the music. One thing that I wanted to do, but because of so many changes and so many transfers during my father's time and then my own, I could not follow a passion that I wanted to do. And so, of late, in the last couple of months, I've started to learn guitar,
Oh, wow.
and I'm enjoying actually.
I can play the guitar. I'm also very musical like that.
So I wanted to learn guitar, and now I'm not a novice on guitar. I can play a couple of songs, so it gives you a more satisfaction. Though I have a very I would say what kind of a voice, but I love singing, and
That I think I also attributed to your Fauji roots, because a lot of it's just you cannot do music away from a Fauji or a background. Yeah, it's just so entwined. It's beautiful to see.
but actually in my early days I was quite impressed with actually boxing.
Right.
Because in Jabalpur, we had this B.S. Thapa, 1978 gold medalist and all Asian gold medalist and all that. They used to train next to my house,
Right.
and but it requires a lot of stamina, and actually I didn't have that. So
Also,
so
the
I
risk
dropped
of
it.
losing your nose,
Yes, yes.
deforming your face.
So that's the way I do it.
Lovely. So I have a question that, in fact, I think a lot of people would want to know this through me. So I'm like almost like a mouthpiece here. What does success mean to you now, vis-a-vis what it meant to you when, say, you were 20 years old? How has it changed? How has your definition of success changed? Or if it has or has not?
So yes, no. In fact, I would be lying if I say that it has not changed. 20 years back, you wanted position, power, popularity, everything. Now, for me, success means how am I contributing to my society? How am I contributing to my colleagues? And
Being of service.
how can I volunteer my services to my friends or the students, as I said, from the university, for me, that's success.
Lovely. This brings me to one of the last, but one of the most important questions of this podcast. And that is, if you were to pick one lesson or say one line or one chapter from your book, Beyond the Comfort Zone, for our audiences, what would that be and why?
I would say take transitions that happen uh, as a step towards your growth. Don't look at it from a perspective that how and how will I do this, and don't look back. I think look forward with a very positive attitude. And I think all my chapters would actually will ensure that there is a lesson learned that I have mentioned in each of the chapters. So for me, every chapter, that 9 chapters that I have written in the book, I think talks about that what it takes to be a good leader. So there are anomalies that I would have made, and I've tried to correct that in my own personality traits. But I would say that leave the comfort zone. You cannot become a managing director sitting at home. You need to travel to different parts of the world. You need to meet different people. You need to adapt to the situation. You need to have the adaptability, right? And there were times, I came from a pure vegetarian family, right? And there are people who have survived like that. But my point is one life, lead the way that you want to lead and live it big, live it king size.
Tell us about the book, sir. Where is it available? How can we find it? Where
I
can
mean,
we order
it's
it?
it's available on Amazon
Right.
right now. It's available both as soft copy as well as the hard copy. Uh, uh, Purposefully, I have ensured that it is below 150 pages because I know that people don't like to read. So this is
Audiobooks are in.
all right. So and maybe and audiobooks. So I don't have the Hindi version right now, but yes, I'll try to do that. Uh, and even I've priced it very reasonably. So
Awesome. But so can we also know what are your plans in the next, say, couple of months, weeks ahead of the book release? And is there anything that we should be looking forward to coming from you, or something that you're about to set out on, like a journey that we should be watching out?
So basically, I would continue to give you feeds of each and every lesson, because at least I know that people would have read something out of the book, so that their interpretation is right. I would actually send regular blogs, regular posts, so that people are aligned to what they have read and how they should actually take it forward. So that's one way that I would try to do that. And if I get that kind of support and love from the people in terms of buying the book, because this particular book is not meant for money. It is purely meant to leave a legacy and my learnings with the youngsters, those who are entering the corporate world or those who are struggling at the crossroads of the corporate world.
Very important.
So
Yeah.
this is for them.
So that makes it for a very big population.
Yeah, so that's the way I would look at it. And I think I still have a beautiful topic in my mind. I would not like to disclose it right now. But yes, I will be penning down the second book shortly.
Amazing. So if we were to follow Rupesh sir, please keep an eye on his LinkedIn. Connect with him there. Or you can also buy the book off Amazon. And that's where we have the book
Yes,
currently.
yes.
Apart from that, sir, I'm going to do a very quick rapid fire round, guys, so that we just understand. This is not going to give you a lot of time to think. So we're just going to give like 3-4 questions very quickly. A book that changed your life.
Excellence in Execution by Professor Ramcharan.
Okay. One quote you live by.
Live and let others live.
Beautiful. I agree with that. Comfort food during tough days.
Dal chawal.
The first thing you do when self-doubt creeps in.
I actually go for a shower.
That's actually a good way. I go for a nap. One word your closest friends would use to describe you.
He's a people-centric guy.
Is that a compliment?
It's a compliment because they know that they can count on me at any given point in time.
Brilliant. I think this has been great. I think we've had a wonderful conversation, sir.
Thank you very much.
And I hope everybody who's going to watch it and who will be watching it whenever we release this takes away a lot of these nuggets of wisdom from you, because I certainly have. I've certainly picked up so many things, and I feel the biggest learning from this podcast for me has been that where comfort ends, growth begins. And correct me if I'm wrong,
You're
sir.
absolutely spot on.
Right. So I think I've mustered the courage to do that. Because off camera we've had these conversations, and they've really instilled this sense of self-belief in me. So I feel that I've been inspired by your journey. I'm sure 100,000 more people will be. Please buy the book, read the book, give us your feedback. Connect with Sir on LinkedIn, and yes, once we have this channel and this podcast out, I would be
All the
shouting
best
it
to
out.
everybody.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming and
Thank
joining
you
us.
so
sir.
much, Sonam, for this nice interaction. Thank you.